Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Mac Miller mixtape, Faces. Mac Miller is a rapper, producer, singer, and songwriter. If you have been following underground and mainstream hip-hop for the past few years now, you most likely have heard of this guy. I've dug on some of his previous projects, but have also had some reservations about some of them too. Some of them are not lyrical enough, or his delivery is just too monotone. He's too poppy, he's too stoned, he's too goofy, or he's giving us really bad singing over terrible faux jazz instrumentals. I don't even know what this was. The issue that I have with Mac Miller's music really depends on the project that I'm listening to, of which, because over the years since he has broken out onto the scene, he's become more and more prolific. I'm also a fan of the fact that his come-up just seemed so natural and so organic and so self-created. He consistently gets collaborations from reputable rappers and producers, and he seems to be a hard worker. It doesn't really seem like there's ever a moment where he's not collaborating with someone or getting ready to put out a new project himself. And artistically and instrumentally, I think he's been getting more ambitious as well. Not a perfect record, his last full-length LP, Watching Movies with the Sound Off, but easily his most creative album yet. Some of his most abstract lyrics yet are on this project, as well as some of his most progressive instrumentals. So I was kind of surprised to see that I enjoyed yet another project from him, Faces. Not surprised that it's good or that it has a lot of the characteristics of Watching Movies with the Sound Off, but I was surprised that I dug it despite the fact that it is about 90 minutes long. And even though that's an admirable quality in a sense, it's still the tape's most glaring flaw. I think we can all agree to an extent that Mac Miller is really yet to reach a point of emotional dynamics and maturity where he can actually hold a project for 90 minutes straight and deliver a group of different sentiments and emotions and messages in the process, sounding fresh and engaging and entertaining with each one. But still, even if this project is a little bit of a slog, I do think that Mac Miller here, more than ever, has done a great job of capturing the plight of the modern stoned slacker. A regular, everyday kid who wants to pursue his dreams, but in the process might have gotten a little too deep in over his head with fake friends, misconceptions of fame, drugs, insomnia, depression. But in the process, he still hasn't lost his passion and his fire and his hunger. Still, I will say that this is a record that Mac Miller fans are going to enjoy above all. Those that have kind of a vested personal interest in seeing Mac Miller do well. For a lot of you out there, hearing a successful rapper crying in your ear might not be your favorite thing to do. You might have bigger fish to fry. But in my opinion, the rapping, the storytelling, the personal emotions that are delivered authentically, and the production are all improved to the point where Mac Miller might just change your mind on some tracks. Because on this project, I think Mac does deliver some of his best songs, some of his greatest artistic feats. Tracks like Happy Birthday, where lyrically Mac Miller is going into the situation where there's a birthday party going on downstairs, and yet he's depressed and he's feeling awful about himself, but everybody around him is just looking for a reason to celebrate and a reason to party and have a good time. Nobody really cares about this slump that he's in. There are songs on here like Diablo, where he kind of goes into his dark side. Tracks like Wedding, where he's rapping to a love interest and trying to convince her that he's like the worst person ever, basically warning her about him. There are tracks on here like Angel Dust and Malibu, where Mac Miller essentially gives us like all of these addiction follies and this addiction rationale. And then there's songs on here like San Francisco, where Mac is essentially giving us all of these moody, blunted musings that are kind of funny, interesting, clever. I get a few chuckles out of them. I love the clunky beat on this track, as well as the very jazzy instrumental on the song Here We Go. Some very heavy sub bass on this instrumental, and this is one of the few moments on this album where Mac Miller comes off really energetic and charismatic, laying out some bars where he's kind of like setting things straight a little bit, talking about how a lot of people weren't messing with him until he hopped on a brain feeder beat from Flying Lotus with his last LP, and how he got where he is, all without a Drake verse, all without a Jay verse. But maybe he does go a little too far when he pokes fun at other internet rappers for spending their advance on 2 Chainz and a Gucci verse. I love the wordplay, but I think Mac Miller is kind of guilty of the same thing on this very project with the Rick Ross verse that pops up later on this track list. And I do like the song itself. It's a trap-flavored banger. It's got a nice hook to it. It's about Mac Miller kind of dealing with insomnia and his really high energy. As a result, I guess the energy that one would need to not go to sleep. But the Ross verse on this thing is... In the middle of the verse, there's this glaringly awful line where he says, "Getting money so complicated, I'm the shit, I'm constipated." And then Ross spends a few bars in the track telling us that, in his opinion, Mac Miller is real. He's really real. I'm just wondering if anybody else is just sensing the irony of having the fakest guy in hip-hop right now tell us how real Mac Miller is. I mean, I can't even handle it. Truth be told, should have sprung for the Gucci verse. There are some other features I see credited on this project, but also don't go over well, like the Ab-Soul verse on the back end of the song Polo Jeans with Earl Sweatshirt, which is non-existent. Not only that, but this track is an incredible mutant of a song. Mac Miller's and Earl's bars are all right. They don't really make this a killer song, an incredibly memorable song. But throughout this track, there's all these vocal samples of these kids playing this really violent game, screaming at one another angrily. And under this, Mac Miller is just like mumbling this incredibly faint, weak, uninteresting hook. And I don't know if he wants to give us a vocal cut that's interesting or funny, or a hook. Just give me one or give me the other. There are just some moments on this tape where obviously Mac Miller and his features are not following through. Does he care about this tape? Does he care about how it sounds, about how it flows, about how it comes together, about whether or not it actually looks professional in the end? I mean, Schoolboy Q comes in on the song Friends, not really rapping or anything like that, just quietly in the background yelling, "Miller Mac, Miller Mac, Miller Mac," just shouting like a troll. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is one of my favorite tracks on the entire LP. It's one of the most ambitious songs at 6 minutes and 38 seconds, and personally, I think it's one of the more telling songs for Mac Miller, with him talking about friends and drug addiction and his relationship with his mom a little bit, more misconceptions with fame on this track, and some issues with self-esteem. There's also the Matter of the King Ralph feature that might be on this thing. I didn't hear anything. And then Thundercat is featured on just like a very clumsy, short, tiny 53-second instrumental interlude, which to me is just like an incredible misuse of that magical unicorn bass player's amazing talents. If he's involved anywhere else on this LP, I'm unaware. Maybe some of the great bass lines on Colors and Shapes? I don't know. Sir Michael Rocks is one of the few rappers on this project that is credited and actually raps and comes through with a pretty notable verse. I mean, it's slow, it's spaced out, it's very monotone just like Mac Miller, but there are some clever lines. This one about "I love you more than Kanye, love Kanye." Him and Mac trade one verse after another. I kind of get this sense of stoner camaraderie on this track, or kind of like drug enabling. I mostly get this sense because at this point in the record, Mac Miller seems to be in kind of a drug haze that leads him to a sort of depressing crash a few more tracks down the road. And if there is one good thing about this LP with all of the tracks that it has, I will say it is that there are different facets of this record where Mac Miller seems to be in different moods here and there. I mean, it's all one kind of slow, long, very background, blunted mood together, but there are different shades of it throughout this thing. There's a Mike Jones feature that totally comes out of nowhere on the song Uber. And, you know, it's not bad. While it's not one of the more memorable tracks on this thing, it is one of the few features on this thing that feels like a true Blue collaboration with Mike Jones rapping about a girl that Mac Miller is mentioning, who might be sort of unfaithful to him, and Mike Jones is kind of serving as this witness to the situation. The Vince Staples verse is okay, and maybe the most surprising verse on this entire LP is the second Earl verse that starts off the song New Faces, where he is going hard, he is hungry, he is aggressive. I've never heard him so awake. So the features on this record can be kind of hit or miss, as well as the solo tracks too. Like the singing Mac Miller does on the song Colors and Shapes, which, I mean, while it's not as excruciating as some of the songs on Watching Movies, it's still really a low point for me on here. And there's a good chunk of songs on this record, especially toward the back end in my opinion, that are incredibly underwhelming. Just outright boring, uninteresting, just kind of redundant in this long 24-song track list. What songs on this thing are the best will most definitely depend on who is listening, but this project is undeniably bloated. And a lot like Movies with the sound off, this record works best sort of hanging in the background, blunted, chill music that's not really demanding your attention immensely, but upon closer inspection, it just doesn't really measure up. But still, I will say that I think lyrically, Mac Miller is delivering more personal and thought-provoking food for thought on this project than he has on some of his more recent stuff. However, I think just the fact that Mac cannot kill his babies on this thing kind of cancels out that positive. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this thing. Transition, if you've given this project a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? That's it. Mac Miller, Faces Forever.